Hey everybody! So this Friday's video is not going to be a beauty or fashion related video. But hold on, before you panic, wait, just hang on for 1 second. Don't click anywhere yet. I am going to post another video this weekend, and it is going to be a massive budget-friendly beauty and fashion spring haul for you guys. So if you're not a fan of Star Trek, which is what this video is going to be about, now you can feel free to go and click on something else over, I don't really know which side, but depending on how your screen is, I guess, or what you're clicking on, I don't know. Anyway, what I did want to talk about this week is what I did last night. Last night they had a showing of the Best of Both Worlds parts 1 and 2 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation in theaters, and they've totally digitally remastered these episodes and put them together, parts 1 and 2, in one continuous showing so that it's all together, kind of like a movie. This is absolutely the most exciting thing for a Star Trek fan such as myself. My favorite series is actually The Next Generation. Sound off in the comments and let me know what your favorite series of Star Trek is. Anyway, I was really excited about this. I went ahead and got tickets to the last showing available in all of New York City. There were only 3 theaters in New York City even showing it, so seating was really limited to begin with. But I got there and it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't, you know, like Comic-Con or anything. It wasn't a convention. There weren't like people dressed up and running around in costumes. It was pretty much really quiet. Hardcore dedicated fans who came out to see like a new remastered version of 2 episodes that we've all probably watched 100 times. If you're not familiar with Star Trek and for some reason you're still watching this video, these episodes are about how Captain Picard gets abducted by the... Fuck that. I'm not gonna sit here and explain the plot of the episode. Just go watch it on Netflix or something and come back to me when you're done, okay? Alright. See you in a little while. Anyway, there's a few things about... Oh, everything itches today. Oh, allergies. Anyway, there were a few things I really liked about the showing of these episodes in theaters.
Hello?
The first thing that I really liked was the commentary and interview reel that preceded the actual showing of the episodes. These interviews were absolutely awesome. If you're really, really into it, like I am, it's a lot of fun to get to sit there and hear about the process of making the episode, some of the challenges that they ran into, both behind the scenes and on set, you know, the actors as well as the producers, as well as makeup and costumes and all of that stuff all goes into making something like this. It's interesting to see exactly what kind of challenges they ran into, what kind of funny stuff happened, you know, what they remember from the experience, whether it was meaningful in their lives or not, because these are iconic episodes of Star Trek, definitely meaningful in my life. So it's interesting to see what they had to say. So they interviewed a whole bunch of people. Some of my favorites were, of course, Jonathan Frakes. Love Jonathan Frakes. And he had a whole bunch of jokes. Jonathan Frakes, first of all, got really, really big, and he got a little older, and he's got totally white hair and like little glasses and little grandpa sweater vest thing going on. So I absolutely love him. I wanted to hug him, but he wasn't really there. I'm a weirdo. He was really funny. He was talking about Elizabeth Dennehy, who plays Commander Shelby. She's kind of going after Riker's job in the episode, as you may remember. And, you know, so he just was like, she wanted my job, she wanted my chair, she wanted my pips. He was just really passionate about it. I've never seen Jonathan Frakes in anything that wasn't Star Trek, so I don't know. You know, I feel like this is his life, but, you know, maybe not, I don't know. So he had worked with her dad, so it was fun to have the next generation. So that was his other little joke that he had. Who else was really interesting to hear from? Elizabeth Dennehy herself, actually. Here is a, you know, at the time 28-year-old theater actress who didn't really care much for doing TV one way or the other, and got the part, took the part, and she wasn't nervous or anything, she said, because she wasn't really familiar with Star Trek, so she didn't have the gravity of the importance of it as it would have if it was, you know, a Star Trek fan that they hired. They would have been, oh my god, it's, you know, because this is a really big deal, but for her it just didn't register because she just wasn't into sci-fi at all. Having heard that, she gave a very convincing performance in the actual episodes as far as somebody who is technically capable and knowledgeable within Starfleet. Great job to Elizabeth Dennehy for having no interest in science fiction whatsoever. She was saying that Jonathan Frakes had told her during filming, you know, that they maybe they should add some heat to their dynamic, their relationship on camera. They hadn't written the next part yet, so they didn't know what was going to happen. And so he was like, who knows, we could end up hating each other, our characters could end up married. So they didn't know if they were going to keep her, if Patrick Stewart was going to leave. There was a lot of questions up in the air. I came to find out while listening to the interviews. But the best, I think, was definitely Seth MacFarlane. Like, what was he doing there? They just decided they needed to interview him because people like him. I like him, so that's great. He's a big Star Trek fan. I'm sure you'll know that if you've seen Family Guy. There's a lot of Star Trek jokes and even Star Trek episodes. There is an entire episode about this cast in this series, so he's understandably very into this. And he just said that he had part 1 on tape or DVD. I don't remember, probably on tape back then, but just played it to death over and over and over again because they made you wait all summer, and then you got to find out what happens in part 2 at the end of a long summer, which Jonathan Frakes said they had done such a good job with the suspension of disbelief that it really held you through the summer. I remember that. I remember being riveted, so it's good to hear Seth MacFarlane felt the same way. He was commenting on the Borg, being that this is the introduction of the Borg to Star Trek. Basically went into his thoughts on their effectiveness and saying that they're so effective because they were just so passionless. They don't care, you know, they're just going to go at their own pace, slow or fast, ruthless beings. And so that's what was so interesting about them. And I absolutely agree with that assessment. That was a new type of villain. Every other villain up until this point had been another alien race that had some conflict with the morals or ethics or the general way of being of the Federation, the way it was run, the way they did things. It was always just like Klingons or Romulans. Somebody had some problem. But now this was a universal enemy that was actually affecting everybody. So that was a lot scarier, I think. Very unlike any of the other alien beings that have been encountered throughout Star Trek. So definitely a challenge for them to create this concept. Seth MacFarlane actually hired Ron Jones to do the music for Family Guy pretty much entirely because of the cliffhanger music at the end of part 1. The dun 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 dun. And that was funny to me because then I thought back to Family Guy's 2-part episode, Stewie kills Lois, followed by Lois kills Stewie, and Stewie kills Lois ends the same way with the exact same cliffhanger music and the to be continued blue italicized capital letter Star Trek The Next Generation text if you remember that episode of Family Guy. So it's just funny to me. It was already funny, like I already got the joke the first time, but it's funnier now going back that that was actually the whole reason that he even hired Ron Jones to do the music for Family Guy, was because of those like 30 seconds of Star Trek. Absolutely great. He's like, that's why I hired him. I love that. Throughout the interviews, you hear a lot about the makeup and the costumes. Makeup supervisor Michael Westmore went ahead and took an airbrushing class so that he could actually airbrush all of the drone's makeup. It was white with like black eyeshadow, blended in to make them look like skulls almost a little bit. And he took an airbrushing class because it was taking so long to do each individual one. And of course there's tons and tons of these drones, and so he just literally learned how to turn them out like cookies, as he put it. Patrick Stewart's laser had issues when they first came up with it and attached it. I think they said that they wanted it to originally be like his eye. You see some of that later in Borg that are more developed as the series continues, and throughout Voyager you do see full eye lasers and coverings and all kinds of stuff later on. They definitely developed the idea really, really well. I took a lot more notes on this than I was actually going to go into. That's okay, because you should be able to get all of these interviews on DVD pretty soon. From what I could tell, it looked like they were basically playing a DVD in the movie theater, and they were advertising a DVD at the end of it. So basically, this was just a huge marketing campaign to get people to buy the remastered version of these episodes on DVD with all the interviews and commentary and blooper reels. So I guess I got taken for a ride, but it was a lot of fun to see it in theaters anyway, regardless. The The next thing that I really liked about it, speaking of which, is the remastering. The remastering was absolutely beautiful. It was really subtle in some places. They had talked about in the interviews having used granola on velvet and then filming that and making camera passes with that to show things that were in the background and then have other ships and things in space hanging in the foreground. Because they worked with figures and models, you have to remember, you're not going to make little models this big. That's time consuming and it's expensive, and so it had like a texture, and they used like granola on velvet. Literally, that's what Star Trek is, granola on velvet. Really high tech there. There's something ironic about that, I don't know. But in any case, it's really true to the style in the show. This is not George Lucas coming in and redoing Star Wars, which is an absolute nightmare. Not the case with Best of Both Worlds. The CGI rendering was beautiful. It was very true to the show, very true to the original episode. You felt like you were watching the original episode, but it just seemed a little bit more alive, a little bit more vivid. They showed some of the effects that they did side by side throughout the interviews while they were talking to some of those people, and they were talking about the granola on velvet and other topics. And they were showing the camera passes that were digitally enhanced and re-rendered now for this showing. And it would just be like an explosion that came out very orangey and yellow in the original. Was the exact same explosion, but now it's brighter, whiter, more explosive. These changes are subtle, but they're good. They let the episode keep its integrity while also keeping it modern and up to date so that it really stands the test of time. Especially now that they've added some of these things. They're subtle, but at the same time, there was a sense of watching it anew all over again. I was still sitting on the edge of my seat, even though I've seen it 100 times and have it on multiple DVD collections, not to mention it's on the internet. I've literally seen these episodes more times than I can count, but I was still riveted, still sitting on the edge of my seat, still absolutely like it was the first time. So much fun. So the remastering, they did a great job with that aspect of it, so it made it so much fun. And I think everybody else in the theater had the same feeling because everybody was laughing at all the jokes, even though we've all heard them 100 times. You could tell we'd all seen it 100 times because we were laughing at the other things that happen in the episode that aren't meant to be funny but are funny. Like moments of shoddy acting or like corny, campy moments throughout the episodes, and people just break into laughter. It wasn't meant to be funny, but because we've seen it 100 times, of course, it's funny now. Like Worf, when they come back and they're not able to retrieve the captain, and Data tells Riker the captain has been altered by the Borg, and Riker goes, altered? And Worf just goes, he is a Borg. Like, that's the funniest thing in the entire episode to me. And it's totally drop dead serious, but it's hilarious. That was the take that they actually used. Here's a Borg. Pouty Klingon, not happy. It was a lot of fun. It was fun environment, fun atmosphere, just full of fans. Everybody's just there to really enjoy it and have a good time. So nothing like too serious, no nerd rage. It was absolutely great as far as that, which isn't really anything that has to do with the remastering, but I think everybody just enjoyed it a lot. So it was really worth it to go. Third thing that I really, really liked, though, about going to this last night was the blooper reel at the end, because who doesn't love a great blooper reel? There were bloopers from the episodes, but then also bloopers from other episodes throughout Star Trek. They had from yesterday's Enterprise, when Tasha Yar is hanging out with Lieutenant Castile from the other Enterprise, and she calls him Lieutenant, and he goes, we've known each other a whole day, I won't salute if you won't. She's like, all right, and they exchange names, and he says, you know, everybody calls me Castile, but my mother calls me Richard, and she's like, okay, Castile, and he's like, no, I think I'd like it better if you called me Dick. It looked exactly like the take that they actually used in the episode. I mean, they were both dead on, but he just held a straight face the whole time and just is like, Dick. Lots of really good blooper reels, though. I love watching the parts where, you know, the ship is being hit by something and there's turbulence, you know, because they shake the cameras around and you see people shaking in their seat and kind of waving themselves around, and you come to find out, as Elizabeth Dennehy said that she had come to find out, that really they're just sitting there doing this, like in their chair. Like just literally, oh my gosh. And they had a scale of like 1 to 10 of how intense it was supposed to be, like a 1 versus like a 10, you know, when they were crashing the ship. So it's really funny because they feel stupid. Some of the blooper reels you see, like Patrick Stewart is doing it and he's just like, ugh. Speaking of Patrick Stewart, there's one last thing that I really liked. I actually recorded it on my phone, so I'm just gonna go ahead and play it for you guys. Pardon my laughter. I know that's probably the most annoying thing, but this was really funny.
Waiting for a subway train in Brooklyn the other day. My station, I'm happy to say, is above ground, which makes it all that much nicer to wait for trains. The guy walked past me, and he didn't stop. He just walked slowly past me. But as he got abreast of me, he said, "You're keeping it real, man." And covered my face from ear to ear. Once I understood what he meant was, it is the nicest thing that anyone in public who I don't know has ever said to me.
Alright, check back this weekend for that haul video that I promised you. Otherwise, come back next Friday. I post a new video every Friday. And I will see you guys later.